The big bark. Listen up, dog owners. It's for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host, Darragh Burke, and canine co-hosts, Bruno and Milly. The Big Bark.
Hello and a big welcome to the Big Bear Podcast, Ireland's favourite canine podcast. I'm your host, Darragh Burke, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful canine co-hosts, Bruno and Milly. And this is a big episode for us this week. It is our 50th episode, and I suppose, go back a long time ago, I didn't ever think that this would keep going for 50 episodes, but, well, obviously, thrilled to say that it has. Over the course of the last 50 episodes, we've had some absolutely amazing guests. And, well, let me just give you an idea of who some of those guests actually have been. So, we have had dog trainer Samantha Rawson, who now chairs our Clever Canine slot. We have had Pete the Vet. We have three vets chairing our health hub every week now. Recently we had Susie Walsh and Dr. Bobby Ortiz. We've had Matt Muramadi earlier on this year as well. We had Cheryl Matthews from Vet Today all the way in the US, telling us about her business over in the US. And Annie Grossman in the US there back last September as well, one of the champion dog trainers of New York. Now, obviously we've had so many more guests than that. We've had Pep on a number of times. We've had plenty of groomers on, other dog trainers. Can't go through everyone really, but it's been an absolutely fantastic 50 episodes so far, and we're really looking forward to bringing you another 50. Now, coming up on a bit later on today's show, obviously we do have, as I mentioned, our health hub, and that's with Trusty Veterinary Clinic. So we'll be going over to chat to Ashleigh Bugler in Trusty Vets about obesity in dogs a bit later on. We have Samantha Rawson from the Canine College coming up just in a little short bit, and we will be talking to Samantha following on our conversation from last week in Clever Canines about new puppies, and particularly what happens when your new puppy arrives home. Last week we looked at the red flags to watch out at breeder establishments and like what to look for when you're going to select a new puppy. So we're delighted to have Samantha back on to continue that conversation this week a bit later on. Now, it has been, I suppose, what I would describe as an absolutely fantastic week. There's no real other way to put it. So, as some of you may have seen on our Instagram page, we did have quite the big announcement there on put up on Wednesday's post that went up. So, this week just gone, myself and Jen went to Westport to spend a couple of days there on vacation. Now, Westport is a beautiful town. So many dog-friendly places there. Would highly recommend it. Just everything about Westport was magical, but I suppose the one thing that was more magical than anything was, well, on Tuesday in Westport, after 6 years, and some people would say I waited my sweet ass time, and other people said about time, and other people said about bloody time. I proposed to Jen on Westport Beach, so obviously it was a dream come true when she said yes. Now, for those of you who probably know me, or even those of you who don't, anyone knows that, like, I'm the biggest dog person going ever. So in the run-up to, I suppose, finally getting the balls to actually get down on one knee I was trying to come up with a way to actually to do it. And I always wanted to have the doggies involved, but the dogs won't actually come into Westport with us. So I was trying to find a lovely way to get them involved. So I'm just going to tell you a bit of a story here about, well, I'm going to go all the way back to, I suppose, the first week Jen met Jen, and more specifically, the day that Jen met Bruno. Now, Bruno was only a little 10, 12-week-old puppy at this stage. And, he was just so cute. His ears, if any of you have ever seen his photos from when he was a puppy on our page, definitely, if you haven't, have a look at them. They're floating around somewhere on the page. And I think, for me, Bruno was such a huge part in, I think, first getting Jen to go out with me. Obviously, I'm, handsome man and all that myself. She couldn't resist me either, but I think, for me, it was Bruno, was being a small little brat of a puppy, so he was. He's still 6 years on. He's still an absolute brat. But I gave him this tiny little tap on the nose. And it wasn't even hurtful tap, it was just a little tap. And straight away, he went into Jen's lap. And I think that was the moment for me. I saw how affectionate she was for him. That was the moment for me that I knew there was something special about her. So, yeah, it did take 6 years, after that, just over 6 years, to actually finally propose. Milly came along shortly after Bruno. Now, Bruno did not like Milly at all. Now, Milly was only supposed to be spending a short amount of time with us originally, but 6 years on, we're delighted she's still with us, yeah. So, as time went on, I saw how amazing Jen was with the dogs as well. And for me, that's such an important thing in a person, that they have to be kind to animals and have to love animals. And she loved those two dogs just as much as I did. So I think over time we started referring to her as the dog's mammy, which she has definitely become. So on Tuesday, this brings us right back up to the present point. On Tuesday, we took a little drive out from the hotel in Westport out to Bertram Bay and Bertram Beach. Now, if it's right in the Clew Bay area of Westport, sits directly in front of Croagh Patrick, and I'd recommend it to absolutely anybody to take a trip out there. The great thing is, if you're coming from Dublin, come from Cork, from Limerick, it's a lot quicker to get to Westport now too, because with the whole bypass around Tuam, and it literally cuts about an hour and a half off your journey, which is great. But no one really cares about traffic. People want to hear the story. So we took a drive. I didn't tell Jen where I was going, where we were going. Didn't give any indication at all. Just said we were going for a drive. Now, you gotta remember, I was a brave man here because, neither of us had coffee yet. Which I'm actually drinking right now. And I think it's a brave thing to talk to someone before they've had their coffee. It's something that Jen likes to remind me on a regular basis. So we got out as far as Bertram Beach. Took us about maybe 15-20 minutes on these windy, bog back-arse roads. Great thing about Westport. No such thing as motorways or anything just yet up there. We arrived at the beach anyway, and it had been absolutely pissing down rain for the day and a half beforehand. So since we arrived in Westport, it had been lashing rain, so a lot of what we kind of wanted to do, I suppose, we wanted to go to Ashleigh Island. We couldn't because it was just horrible weather. So we arrived in Darragh. And we walked over towards the beach. We even had to jump over a giant puddle, which in June you really should not have to do. We arrived at Darragh and it had stopped raining, that's it. And out of the car we got, and we walked over towards the beach. There was I suppose, a landing of steps that were going down to the beach, and we stopped there. At this point, I sent Jen 2 pictures to her phone on Viber. Just 2 pictures of the doggies. Because we both miss our babies at this stage. And I sent her the 2 pictures. I told her to check her phone. Now, if this was probably 5-10 years ago, this plan would not have worked because there was no such thing as 5G even in the most western point of Ireland. There was no such thing as 5G whatsoever out there. There was no such thing as probably G out there, actually, I'd say. So, thank God, this plan actually, it did depend on having data, it did depend on having network, so thank God we had a network. So, Jen opens her phone, opens up Viber, and for anyone who has been on our social media this week, you would have seen the pictures that I sent to Jen. The first one was a picture of Milly, and Milly is sitting there with a printed sign in front of her. And it says, "We want you to be our mammy forever. We all love you so much." And then the other picture was of Bruno. And Bruno had another sign in front of him that said, "Will you marry our daddy?" I look back, I can still see the look of, I suppose, confusion as kind of what the hell is going on kind of thing. What I won't say the other word, I put in hell there instead, but it's kind of what's going on. And when she looked back from her phone, I was there down on one knee. And I'll be honest, I was fine back to tears because it was the most nervous I would say I've ever been, because I was about to ask the biggest question of my life, to the love of my life. And I asked her, would she marry me? As you can guess from the posts and the photos, thank God, and so happy that she said yes. I was asked afterwards by her, what would I have done if she said no? Now, look, I suppose, handy that I picked a beach. John Lennon's island was just out in the bay, so I was going to swim to that and seclude myself for the rest of my life on an island. And, well, yeah, I picked a good spot, I guess. Look, for me, it was the most important thing ever to get the doggies involved. Since we've come back, we're both still smiling at everything that happened. Every time we call each other our fiancés, we're still smiling, and we're just, I don't think I've ever seen Jen smile as much, and I just know I'm so happy to be spending the rest of my life with her. And the fact that now we will have a wedding to plan going forward. So that's the next, I suppose, thing, set a date. So I'll keep you all updated on that when we probably have set a date. And it's something that we do want our doggies, Bruno Milly, to be involved in very much. I think Milly is already the maid of honour, the canine maid of honour, and Bruno's already my canine best man as well. Obviously, we're probably going to have to pick human ones too, but I don't see why. I think doggies are the best, and they bring out the best in us as well. And for me, I think it's not just the doggies, but Jen has brought out the very best in me and made me want to be a much better person as well. So, yeah, that was this week. Let us know what you think of. Was it cheesy? Was it adorable? Was it the way I got the dogs involved? What did you like that? And like for me, it's made me the happiest I could ever be. And I'm just so thrilled that I get to plan a wedding with the love of my life and have, like, if I had the 2 dogs, like, got them involved. And thanks to everyone who has commented on our little post I put up as well. So many people are happy for us. And it's great to see that so many people are, like, that happy for us because, like, well, she makes me the happiest I've ever been. And I just... I'm going to keep moving on now before I probably, like, burst into a bloody mess, because this is about dogs after all, this show. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little ad, and then we have our little session with the Health Hub, which brought to you by Trusty Veterinary Clinic, coming up.
Do you have a pet in need of a vet, or do you need some health advice for your 4-legged friend? Whether it's for a regular checkup, microchipping, vaccinations, or critical urgent care, you can rest assured knowing that your pet is in loving hands at Trusty Veterinary Clinic Limerick and Shannon. Providing care for your pet since 1986, at Trusty Vets, your pet is our priority. Call our 24-hour number 061 328 511 or make an appointment through our website www.treatyveterinaryclinic.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. Trusty Veterinary Clinic, proud sponsors of the Health Hub on the Big Bark.
Okay, and welcome back to the Big Bark. And we're joined now on the Health Hub by Ashleigh from Trusty Vets this week. Ashleigh, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. How are you doing?
Not too bad on yourself.
Good, thank you. Very good.
Okay, so Ashleigh, this week what we want to talk a bit about is obesity. We'll start off on this one this week. So, okay, obviously in humans as well, obesity has become a huge factor and it's becoming a big problem, not just in Ireland but around the world. But this is equally a big problem in dogs. You want to chat to us a bit about the problems that obesity can cause long term in dogs?
Absolutely, yeah. So obesity is the most common medical disease of dogs nowadays. It's the biggest problem we see with our pet dogs. Most dogs coming through the door now, because they're almost so well looked after. People are just too kind almost, and we're getting this problem of excess body weight. So obesity is excess fat, or in medical terms, adipose tissue, and it is caused by an excess of calorie intake. So the dog is just eating too much over its calorie requirements. So the problem with obesity is obviously that we all know in humans obesity is dangerous. It can cause increased risk of osteoarthritis, diabetes, you get urinary tract disease, kind of cardiorespiratory disease and heart disease. It can also lead to make you more prone to different types of cancers, and even just like mechanical problems. They get this fat collecting over their hips and over their tail head, and dogs will struggle, to walk eventually. So they get this kind of waddle on them, and it hurts them to walk. So obesity is not alone a health problem, but it's a problem for the dog's quality of life as well. So we really need to talk about kind of preventing obesity and getting and how to lose weight in our pets as well. So there are certain breeds that are very prone. Like, all breeds are susceptible to gaining weight. Obviously, it's a simple thing of calories in, calories out. But some breeds are more prone. So your Cavalier King Charles Spaniels are very prone. Your Cocker Spaniels, obviously we know our Labradors and our Golden Retrievers. they're very prone to putting on weight easily. Dalmatians and Dachshunds and Rottweilers and even Terriers and then crosses of all those breeds. So they're the big ones to look out for, but all breeds are susceptible. And, you know, there is many other factors too, like genetics and lifestyle, activity levels. So the easiest way to kind of start thinking about, you know, your dog's weight is to think about it from when they're a puppy. So really important to remember that if your dog is to eat 1% over their calorie requirements, starting from when they're a pup, by middle age, they will be obese. So it's not a lot of over the limit, you know, to start getting, you know, weight gain. So we really need to think about how we're going to prevent excess calorie intake from a pup. So the first thing to think about is that ad libitum feeding is not really a good idea in general. A lot of dogs don't really have a satiety center in their brain, especially Labradors. So they have no idea when they're full. So they'll just keep eating, you know, especially if the food is tasty and kind of high calorie food, they'll eat that regardless of whether they need to or not. So a really good idea is when you have a puppy is to get them onto a good quality dry food. These good quality foods will have feeding guidelines on the back of the bag based on the weight and age of the puppy, and feed according to those. Now, it's not an exact science and there is a bit of trial and error in it, but if you feed within those guidelines, you generally can't go too far wrong. The big issue is when we start feeding human food, really. So a lot of human food is very high in calories, especially the processed meat. So for example, if you were to feed an average dog a cocktail sausage, that would be, you know, almost equivalent to a human eating about 16 cocktail sausages in one go. So when you think about it like that, you can really see how easy it is for dogs to be over their calorie intake there.
Okay, actually, that's very good. And like, okay, actually, I suppose for people who are worried about their dogs being obese, what are some of the signs and some of the symptoms to actually watch out for and know if your dog is overweight?
Absolutely. So the first thing I suppose is you'll see is that they kind of lose their waistline. So we know as you're looking at your dog from the top, they should have their ribs should come out a little bit and then their waist should tuck in. You shouldn't, you know, there should be a figure there. So if you notice that your dog is kind of the same size from its chest all the way back to its bum, that dog is probably carrying excess weight. The other thing is then kind of feeling the ribs. You want to be able to feel the ribs through the kind of a little layer of fat, but you should be able to easily palpate the ribs, but not see them, obviously. Then the other thing is obviously a pendulous abdomen. So if you notice your dog's kind of ventral abdomen, the belly area is kind of hanging down, that's obviously not normal. And then the fat gathering, as I said before, on either side of the tail head and over the hips, and seeing this waddling gait, and even something just as simple as a decreased exercise tolerance. So if you think, God, my dog used to walk a lot further and now he's sitting down a lot more, or he's not as keen to go on walks, and have a good feel of your dog, like get hands on and give him loads of cuddles and loads of rubs, and you'll feel that excess weight, you know, over the waist and over the ribs and over the tail head, and you'll kind of know yourself that your dog is overweight, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, okay, so you mentioned, I suppose, some of the effects that obesity can have long term. Can you give us maybe a bit more detail on the likes of the diseases that obesity can actually cause in dogs?
Yeah, so I suppose the main issue is osteoarthritis. So when a dog is overweight, they're carrying excess fat, that puts a lot of pressure on the joints. So that doggy is having to lug around excess weight that they're not built to carry around. Their little legs aren't really, you know, they're not able to carry around all that weight. I've seen dogs that are, you know, 10, 15 kilos overweight, and they're trying to carry all that weight around, putting so much extra pressure on their joints. That causes inflammation in the joint, which sets up a kind of a cascade of inflammation within the joint, which then goes on to cause pain. So when you have inflammation in a joint, those inflammatory cells, they kind of attack the joint itself, and then eventually attack the bones in the joint and everything. So you're getting all this inflammation and pain in the joint. And then that's kind of a vicious cycle then, because the dog doesn't want to exercise because it has this osteoarthritis. It doesn't want to walk around, doesn't want to do exercise. So it's more difficult then to get the dog to exercise, to burn calories. So that's the biggest issue. And that's almost has it has a massive impact on the dog's quality of life. Then, you know, you see dogs that are overweight are more likely to get things like cruciate disease. So that's kind of rupturing of the cruciate ligament in the dog's back knees. So, and then the problem with that is then if they're obese when that happens, they're more at risk during general anaesthetic when they have to have surgery to have that ligament repaired. The general anaesthetic isn't as safe as if they were a normal weight. And also then when they're in recovery, obviously they have had to have plates and screws put into their knee. Those plates and screws are then under more pressure because the dog is overweight. So the biggest issue is joint issues, things like that. Then obviously diabetes is a big problem. So dogs that are obese are more likely to get type 2 diabetes. Other issues are things like urinary tract disease. So overweight dogs are more likely to get UTIs and problems with their urinary tract. And even things like their immune system isn't as good. Also things like skin disease. We often find with dogs that are obese, they might not be on the best diet. So they might not have a nutritionally balanced diet. So sometimes their immune system isn't great. And that you can see that coming out in the skin. So they might have kind of a poor coat and poor skin. And especially dogs that then go on to develop skin folds. So dogs that have kind of folds of fat and skin, around the tail head, the vulva region and around their mouth and their chest, we can get infections there. So, and it's similar in people that are obese. The skin folds, it's kind of moist in between those folds, and you get dermatitis in there, and that's very hard to resolve because the problem, it's impossible to, it's very hard to remove the problem unless the dog loses the weight. So you get these kind of moist area where bacteria are very keen to grow there, and you can get horrible skin infections there and itchiness and things like that. So all that kind of stuff really impacts your dog's quality of life, and it's a totally preventable problem. I suppose the biggest thing is to just drive home the point that is to prevent this problem, because once your dog becomes obese, it's a big challenge to get them to lose weight. Now, it absolutely can be done, and we have done it many, many times. We do it every day, but it's a struggle, for owners to get weight off their dog, because they have to feed their dog less and feed them less treats and increase their exercise. It's a challenge. If you can prevent this from happening, it's a lot easier, obviously. The other point is that we kind of know now in recent studies have shown that same as in humans, once you gain those fat cells, if you're a 1-year-old dog and you get overweight and you gain those fat cells never actually go away. If the dog becomes overweight and they lose weight, we're just shrinking the fat within these fat cells. Those fat cells actually always stay there. So that doggy will always be prone to putting on weight and will easily put on weight. So will have to be on a strict calorie controlled diet for the rest of their lives. If we can prevent them gaining those fat cells in the first place, it's a lot easier to kind of prevent them getting fat as they age. So that's just the main point, really, is to try and prevent weight gain when they're kind of, as a puppy and a 1-year-old, 2-year-old dog, when they're in their younger years, is to really try and prevent weight gain. And that's kind of the main point that I want to get across there.
That's brilliant, Ashleigh. And thanks ever so much for joining us today to talk about obesity. And you'll be back to us again next week to chat about another topic. Is Ashleigh from Treaty Vets on the Health Hub, and we'll be right back after this.
You have a pet in need of a vet, or do you need some health advice for your 4-legged friend? Whether it's for a regular checkup, microchipping, vaccinations, or critical urgent care, you can rest assured knowing that your pet is in loving hands at Treaty Veterinary Clinic, Limerick and Shannon. Providing care for your pet since 1986, at Treaty Vets, your pet is our priority. Call our 24-hour number 061 328 511 or make an appointment through our website www.treatyveterinaryclinic.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram, Treaty Veterinary Clinic, proud sponsors of the Health Hub on the Big Bark.
And big thanks again to Ashleigh from Treaty Vets there, talking about obesity, the important things to remember about ensuring your dog is on a healthy, balanced diet, and just the general things to watch out for if you think your dog is overweight, and what to do. Make sure you chat to your vet, chat to Treaty Veterinary Clinic here in Limerick, who are the sponsors of the Health Hub on the Big Bark, or chat to your own vet as well, whoever that may be, because every vet will be able to tell you different tips to actually remember and what to look out for. Now, just, I suppose, next thing to chat a bit about, we have 2 things here to talk about before we move on to our Clever Canine section with Samantha Rawson. So first of all, our competition in collaboration with Brandy Dog Food is still ongoing. That's going on until the 5th of August. You have a chance to win 3 months supply of Brandy Dog Food for your pet. Just remember, what you need to know is the secret breed, and I'm going to tell you that right now and that is Bernese Mountain Dog. So remember, you need a secret breed, which is Bernese Mountain Dog, for the competition, and you can enter that on Brandy's website, which is in our bio, and it's in our links as well in on our page and on our Facebook page. So Brandy is 50 years old this year as well. This is our 50th episode, so we thought it would be a great idea to get on board, and Brandy thought it would be great to get on board with us as well to promote this competition, promote our 50th anniversary. So remember, you have a chance to win 3 months supply of Brandy Dog Food with the Big Bark Podcast. Go to brandydogfood.com to enter, and just click on the enter button next to the Big Bark logo. You will be asked what the secret breed announced during the Big Bark episodes 49 to 53 is. You'll be asked for your name, your dog's name, your email address, and just your basic permissions and stuff as well. And you do got to remember, terms and conditions apply. All terms and conditions can be found on brandydogfood.com on our website there. So, yeah, that is our competition. Be sure to enter, and be sure to get on over to Brandy Dog Food to get your entry in. You have some time yet, but yeah, be sure enter as many times as you want as well. Be sure to do that. It's not just one entry. You can enter as many times as you like. Now, okay, so we have our other competition that we need to chat about. Over the last number of weeks, we've been looking for a new name for our topic, which will be our agony aunt section, where listeners will write in for advice, specifically doggy topic related advice and anything along those lines. We've been running a voting competition over on Instagram, and our 2 finalists this week were Canine Conundrum and Doggy Dilemma. Now, the overall winner from the votes counted between Instagram and Facebook was Canine Conundrum. So, delighted to announce that Canine Conundrum is the new name for our kind of agony aunt advice section. So, we'll be starting that properly next week, because I don't actually have any advice to ask about this week. So, we'll be starting that next week. And that will come under the Canine Conundrum name. And I suppose well done to everyone who entered, got that far, and well done to all the finalists, Doggy Dilemma as well. And we are going to work, hopefully, and maybe try, because we love that name as well, we're going to try and bring the name Doggy Dilemma in at some stage as well, for maybe a different topic. So, and here the princess has just joined me right now. Millie has decided to come in, and yeah, she likes the name Canine Conundrum, so we're delighted that is our winner. And yeah, there'll be more on that coming up in the next few days over on our Instagram page, so be sure to keep an eye on that. Millie's just doing her little tappy paws around here now, and has decided she likes to be noisy. So, you can hear the little clickities of her little paw prints here, I'd say. So yeah, okay, up next is we're going on over shortly there now to our Clever Canine section with Samantha Rawson, and we'll be right back after one more short little ad break.
Clever Canines on the Big Bark is brought to you by the Canine College, run by champion dog trainer Samantha Rawson, a regular contributor to RT Radio and television. Samantha is a certified canine behaviour consultant and with 30 years experience in the field. She has the knowledge and understanding to help any dog. Our services include individual dog training, from basic to competition standard, assessments and behaviour consultations. The Canine College is set on 5 acres with a secure paddock and an indoor classroom. See thecaninecollege.ie or find us on Facebook for more information.
And we're back on Clever Canines this week, and last week we had a good chat about newborn puppies, things to watch out for, when you're selecting your puppy, when you're going to visit a breeder or wherever you get your puppy from, and just the general environment and tips to be aware of. And we're delighted today now to welcome back Samantha Rawson to the show, who's going to continue the conversation about puppies and more focus today on when the puppies come home to their new home. Samantha, big welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Darragh.
So, okay, today we're talking more about when the puppies come home after you bringing the puppy to their new environment. Do you want to start us off and chat to us a bit about that?
Okay, so the important thing before you bring the puppy home, it's important that there is some transition, that there's some continuity of transition. So it's a good idea to ask for some bedding, or to ask for maybe an old pillowcase or a tea towel to be put in with the puppies, so that when you take the puppy home, that it's coming with some of its scent, its familiar scent with it, to its new home, so that it has something from its old home to bring to its new home. Because I often think it's quite traumatic for puppies leaving their initial home environment, because they're leaving their mum, they're leaving the breeder, they're leaving familiarity, they're leaving their siblings and arriving into this brand new environment. So that scent is really, really important. And also the food, that maybe the breeder would give you some of the food so that you can change the dog's diet over to the food you want to feed it over a period of maybe 2 or 3 weeks, that you wouldn't suddenly change a dog's diet. That's where an awful lot of that kind of house training accidents happen. So when you're bringing a dog home and, you've got it in the car, hopefully somebody is with you when you're bringing the puppy home. If not, that if you could put it in a box on the floor of the car while it travels so that it can see people. I would never expect a puppy to travel in the back of a car alone, having just left its family and everything that was familiar to it up until that point. So then when you bring it home, if you can, to spend some time in the garden with it so that it has its first toileting experience outside in the appropriate place. That you don't bring a new puppy into the house and let it pee in the house, because if that's the first place it pees, well, then it will always want to return to that place. So if you can stay out in the garden with the puppy for as long as possible, to see if it'll do its first pee outside. If not, if it pees in the house, don't make a big deal of it and just clean it up. So I suppose the important thing about bringing a puppy home is that you need to give it a designated safe space. So I am a big fan of utility rooms or dog pens. Now I'm kind of going off the idea of dog crates, because over the last year or so, I've realized that most dog crates are far too small for the dog, and that dogs feel hemmed in, and some dogs can have kind of almost phobic reactions to dog crates. So I prefer a dog pen or a baby gate in a utility room to give the dog lots of space. So you give it a nice, safe bed, a nice soft bed with the tea towel or the scent from the breeder, slightly raised off the floor. And then the rest of the space is covered in newspapers or puppy pads. Now, I'm not a big fan of puppy pads because of the environmental issue and all the rest of it. I think papers are actually much better. So you cover the rest of the floor in papers. So as soon as the dog gets out of bed, it's in the bathroom. And that's the beginning of the house training process. So regular sleeping patterns, regular eating patterns, and regular opportunities to toilet. So that's, minding a puppy is really like minding a baby, only they're mobile. They've got 4 legs and they can run. Excuse me. The other thing is, again, that I've come across is it's really important, if you're going to get a dog, that you have a secure garden. Again, so many behavior issues arise because the dog doesn't have a secure garden, and the owners are kind of micromanaging it all the time, and the dog never is given any privacy, because dogs need privacy to go to the toilet. So having a secure garden is incredibly important. And if you don't have a secure garden, I would suggest you get a dog pen. And to be perfectly honest, if you don't have a secure garden, you shouldn't get a dog in the first place. It just amazes me how people go out and get dogs without secure gardens. It's a bugbear of mine. But anyway.
And Samantha, how important is it to get a regular routine set up for your puppy?
Incredibly important, Darragh. That's a really good question, because think about if you brought a new baby home. You have to have routine. So the puppy needs to be fed at least 4 times a day. So it needs to then sleep. So puppies sleep an incredible amount. I don't think new dog owners actually realize how much puppies sleep. They literally only kind of are awake and run around for 20 minutes, and then they collapse in a heap and need to sleep. So as soon as a puppy wakes up, you bring it out to the toilet. So my kind of routine would be, he's in his dog pen or he's in his secure area. As soon as he wakes up, I bring him outside to go for a pee. I let him kind of run around for 15, 20 minutes outside, and then I feed him and let him run around for another 15, 20 minutes and then put him back to bed. So all told, the dog is probably only out for about 45 minutes, and then he's back in bed, and then the same thing. So it's kind of bed, out, bed, out, bed, out, bed, out. So literally the dog is literally going from bed, outside, being fed outside. That's another thing. I always feed puppies outside so that they're in the right place when they need to go. Or if they're fed in the utility room and the door is open so they can get outside themselves. But in this kind of weather, it's really important that dogs are fed outside. So a sleeping routine, an eating routine, and a toileting routine. And then you're playing with the pup outside, maybe, after it's fed or whatever. So as soon as it's peed and it's pooed, then you can bring it into the house for maybe about 20 minutes. So once your dog has peed and pooed outside, then he can trot around the kitchen for about 20 minutes, because he's not going to pee. Most puppies can be clean for about 20 minutes. And that's the start of the whole house training process. So the only thing you're really teaching a puppy in the early days of having it are house training and being handled. So I pick up puppies a hell of a lot. I pick up puppies all the time. So they're really learning how to be handled and cuddled. And then it's about house training and regular feeding. So feeding 3 or 4 times a day, and it kind of make a little timetable. So, maybe, you get up at 6, the puppy is outside for pee, fed at 6:15, then maybe brought back into bed at 6:45, then sleeps for an hour or so and back out. So that the dog is kind of doing the same thing on a kind of rotation basis for the first, say, 2 or 3 weeks that it's in your house. So you get it into a routine of sleeping, eating, and toileting. That's incredibly important.
Very good. And Samantha, we got a question in from one of our listeners over on Instagram. And the listener asked, how do you stop the puppy from crying at night? What I'm guessing by the question is the puppy is crying at night when they're alone in their safe space in their sleeping area.
Okay. A great question, because puppies, remember, a new puppy, now we're talking kind of 8-10 weeks old, a new puppy has just lost its family. So it's really, really insecure. So I never leave puppies alone until they're absolutely happy to be left alone. So I think I would suggest with a very young puppy that I would almost have it in a dog pen in the bedroom and then slowly move it out of the bedroom, or that, I literally sit with puppies until they fall asleep. And then when they fall asleep, I'll kind of sneak off to bed. So the big mistake people make when they're trying to get puppies used to a dog pen or a dog crate or being on their own is they just leave them there and then they abandon them. So when the puppy opens its eyes, it's suddenly alone, and then it's lost everything and it's in this strange place and starts screaming the house down. So it's really important to give puppies security, and you need to sit with them. If you expect a puppy to relax in a safe place, you need to be there when it opens its eyes, because it'll open its eyes, check in with you, and then, then once it realizes it's safe, it'll fall back asleep again. But if it wakes up and finds itself alone in a strange place, obviously it's going to cry and scream the house down. So I would think that's a process that needs to be gone through stage by stage by stage. So I think it might be easier on everyone in the household and on the puppy to let the puppy sleep in the bedroom with you. And then when it wakes up, you can take it out for a pee. So expect to be woken up 2 or 3 times a night, no more than a young baby. And then as soon as it's had a pee, put it back to bed and you go back to bed. So having a puppy is quite hard work, and it's actually very tiring. But if you're not prepared for that, you shouldn't have a puppy, because that kind of care and attention requires love and dedication. And most dog lovers were prepared to put the work in. So if you're not prepared to put the work in, I would suggest that maybe a dog is not for you.
Yeah, definitely. And Samantha, one other question that came in was listener is actually getting a small puppy, and how soon should they introduce a puppy to their older dog?
Okay, I am very mindful of the safety and welfare of both the puppy and the older dog. Older dogs sometimes do not want to be pestered by this little puppy that's going to bounce in its face. And I always think that the welfare of the older dog is sometimes forgotten in the excitement of a new puppy. So I would tend to keep them separate. And this is where baby gates or dog pens are really great things and very useful, because the dogs can be introduced safely through a barrier. So the puppy isn't going to jump in the older dog's face. And then over time, the older dog will kind of learn that this thing is in its house. And this new arrival is going to share its life and share its space. But really important that you don't let a young puppy hassle or climb all over an older dog. Now, more than, you wouldn't leave Granny with, a 10-month-old baby and expect her to look after it. Granny has served her time. She wants to sit down and watch a bit of TV in peace. And that's the way I think about older dogs. They've served their time. They probably didn't want this dog. You got the dog. If you're getting a second dog, you're getting it for you, not for the other dog. So it's really important to be mindful that the older dog doesn't get hassled and stressed, because an older dog will snap at a young puppy, and that can be the start of behaviour issues down the road. So it's really important that they're well supervised and separated via a baby gate, or that the puppy is in a puppy pen.
That's great, Samantha, and we'll leave it there for today. That's Samantha Rawson from the Canine College. Thanks so much for joining me on the show again today.
Clever Canines on the Big Bark is brought to you by the Canine College, run by champion dog trainer Samantha Rawson, a regular contributor to RTÉ radio and television. Samantha is a certified canine behaviour consultant, and with 30 years experience in the field, she has the knowledge and understanding to help any dog. Our services include individual dog training from basic to competition standards, assessments and behaviour consultations. The Canine College is set on 5 acres with a secure paddock and an indoor classroom. See thecaninecollege.ie or find us on Facebook for more information.
And a big thanks again to Samantha Rawson there for joining us on the Canine, or on Clever Canines this week, brought to you by the Canine College. That's all the time that we have now today. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and it's been a big one for us. 50th episode, as I said earlier on. And, well, here's to another 50 episodes going forward. And sure, well, look, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, look, thanks ever so much to everyone for all the support that they've given to the show over the last 50 episodes. Thanks to everyone as well for the lovely comments that they put up this week on that post about that little story that I shared to you earlier about me asking the most amazing girl ever to marry me and getting the doggies involved with it too. One person, actually, I'm just looking here at the comments, one person says here, congratulations, my mum is crying reading your story. Just all the congratulations. It's so nice to actually see so many people being so happy for us. And I see comments here from Pep Bond, from Samantha, from Kids Around Dogs. So thanks to everyone, Dad Finding Ireland, thanks to everyone who commented in and just say congratulations. It does mean a lot to both myself and Jen. And you'll be hearing all the stories about over the next few years, I suppose, as we start to get plans and dates and get the doggies involved even more. Because I think for us, the dogs are our most bestest buddies, and it's great I was able to get them involved as well. And for Jen, it was so, I suppose, so happy for the doggies could be involved. I'm still kind of wondering, did she say yes to the doggies or did she say yes to me? But I think she said yes to me as well. So I come with the doggies apparently as a package. I come with the doggies, so that's what I've been told all along anyway. And sure, look, that's good for me. But yeah, look, that's all the time we have. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. Follow us on the Big Bar Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. Or on TikTok. I don't really use it unless I'm putting up a ridiculously stupid video, which I might start doing more of, because, yeah, sure, we have a few of those around. There's a few where Bruno knocked me over, and that must go up. I'd say they must be popping up in our memory soon enough. Yeah, there's a few nice ones there. There's one of Milly, like, snoring or chasing bunnies in our sleep. We'll get a few things up yet, and we'll try and get into the TikTok thing, but sure, look, I don't really care about TikTok. Anyway, BigBart.ie is where we're at. Find us on Spotify, find us on iTunes. And, well, it's been a great week for me here. And a great week for Jen. A great week for the doggies being involved. And, yeah, look, to everyone else, have a great week. And we'll see you back here at our usual time on Thursday.
The Big Bark, listen up dog owners, it's for you, all you canine lovers. It's your favorite podcast, The Big Bark, with your host Darragh and canine co-hosts Bruno and Milly. The Big Bark,